talk about what is happening if sales are just not working for you. If prospects are ghosting you, or things seem to be going well in your sales process, and then people disappear, or everything seems to be lining up logically, but then things just don't come together for you. Now, there is a right way to do sales. There absolutely are processes and techniques that are going to get you better results. But sometimes, even though you're doing everything right, you find that some prospects are still ghosting you. And this happens to people sometimes that come to our courses, and sometimes that's the reason they come to our courses. And we go through our checklist, and in our Aviation Sales Fundamentals course, we have what we call our 5 Ps checklist that I use to evaluate sales calls. So, we'll role play some of these things, and they're doing everything right, but they're still telling me that, things are just not coming together for them. In that case, often the problem is something that I'm going to tell you about right now, and it is fixable, but it is not something that you're going to get out of a textbook, and it's not something that you're going to get from a technique or a magic word or anything like that. Sales is dealing with people, so there are a lot of variables and a lot of factors involved, and interacting with other people. One of the key ingredients that comes into play is mindset and what I call character. So what's interesting is when I look back through all of the people that have taken our Aviation Sales Fundamentals course, the people who tend to find themselves getting ghosted, the people who are not making the kind of sales that our most successful graduates are the ones that skipped over or didn't spend as much time on the mindset units. They just kind of skipped over the videos, answered the questions, because you can fake this kind of knowledge. Everybody knows what the answers are supposed to be on a mindset question and things like that. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story. One of my guilty pleasures is to watch junky reality TV. And I was working on some graphics last week and got sucked into Hell's Kitchen, which is a reality TV show with Gordon Ramsay. This was a season where he was putting together a restaurant in Las Vegas, and he was hiring an executive chef for this restaurant. So, it was a season from a while back. One of the people, and basically, if you've not seen Hell's Kitchen, it's basically Gordon Ramsay invites a bunch of up-and-coming chefs to compete over a 12-week job interview. And the prize is basically this job, as the executive chef of this Las Vegas restaurant. And he starts out with a whole bunch of people, and then it narrows down every week. They eliminate a person or two until they get to the end, the last man standing kind of a situation. So it's a very competitive, very stressful kind of a situation. There is this chef whose name was Trevor, and he was doing everything right, at least as far as we could see, and nothing was going his way. And he was so stressed out. He's putting way too much pressure on himself. Everything is just so hard for him. They have basically 2 things that happen during Hell's Kitchen. One is individual challenges, where you get a set of ingredients and you have to come up with a dish, or you have to identify all of the flavors in a particular dish, or, something like that. And then they also had dinner service every night at this restaurant where he was hosting this 12-week challenge. And every night they had to work as teams to get food on the table, to get those dishes out the door and execute to the satisfaction of Chef Ramsay, which is, of course, not easy. So when Trevor was working on dinner service, which is a cooperative environment, he would be telling people what to do, and nobody would follow his instructions. So, he's supposed to be working as a team. He's supposed to be cooperating. He's supposed to be giving and getting help. And that was where he really had the most trouble. Nobody would follow his instructions. They'd either pretend they didn't hear him, or they would overdo whatever he asked them to do, or they wouldn't help him, or they would help him too much, or they would sabotage him. And I felt terrible for this poor guy. And Chef Ramsay would get on his case, I need you to be a leader. And, whoever is going to get this job needs to be a leader. He'd keep emphasizing this. And Trevor took that to mean, I need to yell at people more. And he was completely baffled that he couldn't get people to do what he asked them to. And, the old saying, a leader that nobody is following is just a guy who's out taking a walk, right? So a salesperson is really just a leader. You're leading people into making a decision that's going to be an improvement for them. And they have to trust you, at least to a certain extent, and they have to like you. They don't have to like you, but they have to at least respect you enough to believe that you have their interest at heart. So it actually kind of started to become clear when Trevor would do these little journal entry videos where he's just talking to the camera and complaining about everything that's going wrong with his life. And he's always complaining about his teammates and how much they drive him crazy and how everything was somebody else's fault. And every bad thing that happened was because so-and-so didn't do X or so-and-so did Y. The other chefs, if you look at those in comparison, especially the ones who ended up winning, there were two that came to the end. Two young ladies, Mia, and I forgot the other lady's name, that came to the end of that series, and they did really, really well. The other one actually ended up winning the executive chef position. And they would talk about how they needed to up their game on this. They needed to find a way to help someone on their team. They really wanted to win. They needed to come up with something more creative, or they needed to work on this skill or something like that. And they liked each other, at least the people on their own team. And they're like, I really want to win this, but I hope if it's not me, it's you. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that you get a fair shake, which is a very different thing from Trevor, who was just like, I'm going to win this thing no matter what it takes, or I'm going to salt the earth to make sure nobody else does. And, it's a totally different mindset and a totally different story and a totally different character. So where was I going with this story? It seems like an extreme example, but it's a really good illustration of how leadership is competence plus character. So Trevor had all the competence in the world. I assume he knew everything he needed to know. I'm not a chef, but I assume that he was very good at what he was doing. And, he showed his skills and technical abilities and everything else, but he just did not have the ability to reach out to other people or to allow them to reach out to him. He just didn't have that internal quality to interact with other people. And so if you're in sales, you're interacting with other people, and your character really comes into play quite a bit. And we're reading in this month's book club, Stephen R. Covey's Primary Greatness. And I worked for Stephen Covey for a long time, back a million years ago when I was a single mom. And I read all of Stephen Covey's books because I was teaching Franklin Covey classes. But I swear, some days I had a hard time doing this. I had to change my thinking from, man, this sucks, and I really dislike this person, or if this would just go my way, then everything would be fine, and just blaming other people for situations in my life. And I had to change that to, how can I improve this? What can I do? How can I help this person who is being a total pain in the tail to me, so that we can get them past the stage and get them what they want, so that I can get what I need out of the situation. So those are things that you can learn. And by focusing on some of these things, working on the mindset stuff, working on the character stuff, and you certainly can do that. And this book is a great place to start, so I'm glad we're reading it in our book club. Anyway, that's the word, basically the lecture of the day is, don't skip over the mindset stuff. And especially if you think, especially if you're doing everything right from a technical point of view and nothing is coming together for you, then mindset is obviously the place that you need to focus and spend some time. So don't dismiss it. Don't think you already know it. Everybody could benefit from going back to the basics and focusing on that. I like to go back every single time before I do a sales call or before I do a presentation with a new customer, even before I do office hours with our existing customers, and think, how can I help this person? And do that homework and say, the focus is on them, not on me, not on what I want, but on what they want. And how can I help them? And that shines through. It really does. People can tell. And there are a few people in our group that I want to give a shout out to because they embody this character. So some great examples of character in the industry, in the aviation industry. These people live in the real world. They live in a competitive environment, and they understand how tough things can be, and yet they show amazing character. One of them is Doug Goldstrom as a SSC. He always goes the extra mile for people that he's managing an aircraft for, or people that bring their aircraft in for service, or people that he's arranging a charter situation for, a charter trip. I've got a huge long history and a whole bunch of testimonials from people who talk about how the team went the extra mile for them and made things work in situations where other companies would have just taken the easy way out. David Santo and Deidra Wilson at AeroStar, they really do care about every single person that comes into that school, and their energy and heart gets poured into every single student, and their success, and that's where they get their satisfaction from that job. Is Dave Santo mentioned on one of his videos, about how he loves to run into a pilot years after they got a type rating at AeroStar or got their initial pilot training at AeroStar, and they're a successful captain of an airline, living their dream because of what happened at AeroStar. And, that's really where he gets his satisfaction from. Anna Marie Buenocore, total integrity. In fact, we just entered into a new project, and I told everybody involved with the project that, if Anna Marie's involved, then I am sure that we're going to get our value out of the deal. So, we can work out the details however we want to work out the details. But, I know if she's agreeing to it, that, I feel a whole lot better about this deal. She's at In-Flight Magazine. She does advertising for aviation companies. Gene Clow, Great Circle Aviation, knows his stuff up one side and down the other. And still, the very best and coolest thing about him is his integrity. He will not tell you something that is going to steer you wrong, because he knows, that those long-term relationships, all of his business comes from repeat word of mouth and other things. Peg Mills and the whole team at Turbines Inc., they know that the work that they do keeps planes in the air and keeps pilots safe. And they take that incredibly seriously. And so their integrity is on the line with every single part and every single engine. They do PT6A engine service. Jeremy Cox, Jet Values Jeremy. Jeremy has demonstrated to me how much we could disagree on particular topics and things like that, and still thoroughly enjoy the conversation and each other's company. And, that is the kind of person that you absolutely want to work with, because, they will tell you what's going on, even if it's not what you want to hear. And, you're going to end up friends at the end of the day. And, everything comes out better because of that, that mindset and that character. Larry Hinebaugh, Business Aircraft Records. He started a nonprofit organization to help improve business aircraft records because they suck so bad in so many situations. And he decided he wanted to do something to fix the industry. Most people, a lot of the education on this topic is so old, and people just have never learned how to do it better. And, it's so ignored and so much of a problem in so many different aircraft transactions that could, so many problems come up that could be easily prevented. So he started a foundation to create some education around that topic. Tim at FAPA, met him just recently, just a few months ago, but it totally shines through how much he really enjoys taking young folks and helping them choose the right training program, or guide their aviation career by being that guy that knows the industry and can get involved with them and their parents and their other stakeholders, and really help them get where they need to go. And also with mid-career pilots or military transfers and other people who just need some help getting through that transition and getting into the industry in a good way. Arthur Ramey Jackson, he is the chief pilot for Floyd Mayweather, and he is the embodiment of loyalty. He and his team just do whatever they need to. And he says, the success of Floyd Mayweather depends on everybody on his team, including us, his pilots. And, that's such a great mindset and such a great way of taking responsibility for the little corner of the universe that you have control over. And I just really, really, really enjoy all of our clients. That's just a few of them. So one last little note on this. How do prospects know that you have good character, if you do, or that you have bad character, if that's the case? And the answer is, there are some shady characters that are successful temporarily. That's why we have Bernie Madoffs in the world and other folks that are successfully ripping people off. I think those are few and far between, and that's why they make the news. Most of us can smell a seedy character from 10 miles away. Customers, especially aviation customers, have gotten so much smarter over the last few years, especially, as things have become more competitive and as more of these incidents of bad behavior or shenanigans or cutting corners and things like that come to light. So if you have good character, people can tell. I think that there's a million little micro expressions that people pick up on. People get a lot more information out of a face-to-face meeting or even a Zoom meeting or even an email exchange than they would probably even be able to express or be able to process. People are very, very smart, and they process a whole lot of information before they make, especially an important or expensive decision. So, telling people that you have integrity or telling people that you're honest is sometimes a red flag to say that you don't or you aren't, those kinds of things. But people can tell, I think, if you have their best interests at heart, and if you convey that, and if you build a reputation over time of having a good character. And like Warren Buffett says, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and only seconds to destroy it. So that's part of the reason that it's so important to work on this all the time. We include probably 3 or 4 different books in our book club, just to help you examine, your motives all the time, make sure that you're staying on the straight and narrow. It's really easy sometimes to wander off the path or to make a mistake, and those kinds of things. But you can always come back from that if you are transparent and do the right thing, even after the fact. So, if you're in a situation, and we've had this happen where we've had folks that are trying to come back from an unfortunate situation or from a scenario that didn't go their way, either through their own fault, through a mistake or something like that, or through something that happened that was outside of their control, and they have a reputation to rebuild. So sometimes we have to work on it harder than others, but it is always worth it. And you're always building it, and the time is always going by. So it's just a question of how are you going to use that time, and how are you going to build that most precious of resources that's going to make you successful in this industry. And really enjoy working with them, because we have somehow been so fortunate to find people who have that integrity, and I get to work with them every single day. And that just makes me happy. See you next week, and we'll talk to you soon.